Hello and welcome to the 8th of 8 sessions of Legacy Life Among the Ruins. And we are here just following another turning of the age. We come back to our families to see what has gone on with them. We will be seeing some new characters today and seeing some new playbooks. So we're going to get started looking at that. Before we go too much further, if I've watched along, you've heard us talk about the map. I'm going to screen share what the map looks like at this point for anybody who has actually decided to watch this so that you can see the loveliness that is this. That is the map at this moment, which is much denser than it was on day one. But just to give a sense of that. So last time we made the choices for the trials and benefits. We went through those, got those established. We now walk through, check in with each of the families to see if there are changes and maybe get a sense of kind of what's happened. Before we get too much further, how far do we think we've moved forward? Are we a few decades? Are we years? We had gone at 10 years on our last move forward, I think. What does everybody feel fits with the kind of things that we laid down? Is it another decade or is it longer? David?
I'm happy with whatever, really. I think certainly maybe longer could work if that fits with what other people have in mind. But yeah, I don't mind one way or the other particularly.
Okay. Rye, what do you think?
I'm a little split. I think if we just did a decade, it keeps everything kind of condensed and short, like we're looking at this one section of history here, like a few generations. But if we jump forward, then we could kind of play out those last, like really see a big change for the last little hurrah here. So I'm fine either way.
Leandro, any feelings either way?
I kind of like the idea of jumping quite a bit far because making this session kind of like, oh, this is like an epilogue to all that's happened. Not too far flung, but definitely more than a decade.
So maybe like a generation, like maybe 30 years? What do you think of that? Yeah, because that's a good number. That is a significant span of time for things to change. It means that Axel, who was pretty young, can still be around, a venerable person. So we're talking several decades down the line. So with that in mind, Leandro, let's start with our family of the wave. There were significant changes last time with the other part of the wave, joining with the now the beloved over strife, and your family having kind of hidden themselves away. So have there been any changes to your doctrine, lifestyle, assets, or traditions?
I think, let's see, we've already our lifestyle's already changed to like settled. I think when we left them off, they were becoming very like pushy and militant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm just looking at the doctrine. I don't think any of them really hit what I'm going for, or at least what I'm seeing where they are. But given that it's been a few decades, I do think they've changed from being stellar locus, because that's what Soft wanted in the long run. And given that they were working on this energy project, I think they're switching to Gardener of the Worlds of Worlds.
Oh, okay.
Which means if I spend data to reveal the hidden potential of the homeland, I gain 1 tech. Interesting. But yeah, I think their proper base is still hidden, but like they're like way more open. They're
And what does that look like? What I mean, what have we seen over these last several decades about the wave? What have they been doing? What do we know about how they're operating internally?
Well, to the wasteland, I think more outposts of the wave have sprung up. Like I'm imagining some of their ships have like rooted themselves into like proper buildings, and this is where they're forming like small communities. I think internally, given that most of the time when the turn of the age happens, they're not in a position of power, and they were last time. I think now internally they've set it to a point where like they're they're fully in the direction that life wanted them to go for, which is kind of like not taking other people, not being invading subterfuge sort of assholes, not like locusts, so to speak. But I think that I think there's not like a proper conflict between them and the other, the beloved over strife. I'm imagining it is kind of like there's probably been a few skirmishes in the decade since, and now it's really obvious, like of the two men. That's what the suits look like. Wow, I think in the actual wave that we're looking at. But yeah, I imagine they're kind of becoming like the Damned. They're become in the sense of like they're now carving out territory for themselves. Like that's what those outposts are, for sure. Like I'm imagining they've encroached around near the Kettle half of the map, like around the Blight, cross-pollinating with the Damned, and Project Sunbeam's kind of like contested area between them and the other wave.
Okay. The threats that we still have on the table, just to remind everyone, is this beloved over strife, the combination of this nano infection and the original beloved ship. The Warren has been pushed back. They have not exposed themselves again. The Primordial Concordance is a threat / faction that's out there. Destiny's Rainbow is a place of strangeness. The Lost Dame is a new place that we added last time that has possibilities of tech, but also is clearly managed by someone from the Damned, one of the people from there. And of course, the Damned themselves are another issue that's out there. Leandro, do you want to add a new threat, opportunity, or faction to the map?
I kind of want to add a new faction, I'm gonna have to think about this. Actually, I need to.
Absolutely, I'll let you think about that. Let me ask you this though: is Soft still around?
Yes.
Okay.
I think absolutely.
And what is Soft the same as they were? Have you changed playbooks? Are they still the same playbook?
I think almost by necessity, she's exactly the same. Like the waves went through a lot of changes, and I think she's the one stable thing about them. Like even throughout the decades, Soft is still representing them.
And what role move do you want to trigger then?
Ooh, I think probably Rebel.
Okay.
I think this confrontation with the beloved over strife has gotten too far, and I think when we come back after this age, she's seeking allies to bring them down.
Okay. Oh, that sounds like a good, it is a logical following out. So you'll trigger that and you'll get to take an advance.
Cool.
Let's come to Axel and the Seeds of Sunset, our enclave of bygone lore. have there been any changes in these last few decades to the seeds? We know that they've become a little more militant. They've recovered the city. There's this great network out there that's connecting people more together. So where do we think Axel and the seeds are?
Yeah, I was going to switch up their doctrine to holding back another fall. I think that in general, probably the map has become more tamed is probably the wrong word, but like the lines have been kind of drawn, and there's definite factions now that are at each other's throats, so to speak, here and there. So I think there's a worry among some of the leadership of the seeds that if the damned or others can get their hands on the right piece of tech, like the Warren tried to do, they would be able to bring about, the end of this. I don't know if it's quite civilization yet, but we're working on it, right? So that's that. And then for their lifestyle, I'm going to switch that from settled to dispersed.
Oh, interesting.
And when you write to a family in other settlements for inside skate, fleeting advantage when you act on their advice. So I think what this is that the seeds learn they were pretty much holed up in this one place, and they've kind of realized that they need to be out there and engaged with the world. And so I think there are starting to be there's kind of a renaissance of some of the old ways, and so they're starting to send out small groups of researchers again, like they used to.
In those same vehicles.
I don't know. I traded those in for the power armor.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think we've given up the power armor. So I think that maybe they've this time they're like, bartering their travel with the river folk, or
Okay.
working along those routes. So.
And how is that? What has been Axel's role in this change? Has Axel been for it, against it, shaping it in this time?
I'm gonna mark Axel down as I was gonna put him down as a leader, but I think it makes more sense maybe to do a rebel for this last one.
Okay.
I think that as Axel was always part of the more militant branch of the Seeds during that big push with the Warren, and since things kind of settled down with that, that faction within the Seeds has lost kind of dominance, and so he's still kind of the leader of that lesser faction. And I think some of the elders call it conspiracy theory, but he sees clear writing on the wall that the damned are coming for us at some point. So
Absolutely.
that's where they'll be headed.
Do you want to
They'll be
add
headed.
a threat, opportunity, or faction to the map?
Yeah, I'd been kind of toying with the idea of actually splitting the Seeds, but I think that might be taking it a little too far for one last session. So
an opportunity can be something that's out there that would help relieve a need or add a surplus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that we're missing now is our transport.
Okay.
So I think that we are going to I'll add an opportunity that looking at the map, sorry. Maybe this actually comes from the visitors have brought some transport with them. I don't know if we talked about that, but they're kind of nomadic, right? So they would have some sort of transport vehicles that maybe we're working on adapting.
Yeah, you've heard that they have these things that they've used, that maybe there's a way to trade or take those things, adapt that technology for these vehicles, and we'll define if you decide to head up there. Okay. and you've chosen another role, so Axel gets to take another advance, and that will bring us to the river folk. Have we finally seen the passing of your character, and do we have a new river folk leader?
Yes. Dew retired at the end of the last session, and may still be alive, but if so, is kind of living out a sort of the life of a hermit somewhere around, or possibly even in Destiny's Rainbow. But they have certainly moved on from the river folk. I think, and so yeah, the river folk as a whole have kind of continued in their ways. I think the biggest change that the river folk have seen is that now more of them have settled down on land or on permanent sort of settlements on the water.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a fair, so yeah, I've gone for the I've taken the dispersed lifestyle. So yeah, there is still a nomadic element to them. They still travel a lot, but there are more established places that they call home now. They have settlements, in a number of places now throughout the homeland.
And what does that look like over the past several decades? Do they have cities? Are they just in other people's places? Has their mode of transport evolved?
So I think that yeah, they it's a sort of mixture of some of those. So I think there's definitely they establish their own settlements. I've forgotten what I named them. The Newfound Springs, just down to the around the center,
Mm-hmm.
near the split, and that has not a huge city, I don't think, but it is a fairly developed by this point settlement, and I think there's lots of smaller settlements sprung up around it. I think there's still that kind of, it's like independence to the river folk, and they have kind of individual groups have sort of gone off to like set up their own little settlements as well, but they are also still living amongst other peoples as well. There is still some living in the City of Glass, in the Split, and of course in the Obsidian Archipelago. I think it's quite common for most places to have sort of at least some river folk presence.
Mm-hmm.
Some have adopted to using kind of like almost that sort of like lunar lander type sort of solar powered vehicles on land, but I said they still maintain their links to the rivers, and most of the settlements or places they do live, they still don't tend to stray very far inland. It still tends to be along the rivers themselves.
And with that in mind, do you want to add a threat, opportunity, or a faction to the map?
I think that what I might add based on what we had last time, or actually, I suppose I'd like to sort of modify a threat a bit, if that's okay. But
Sure, please.
I think that maybe the actual area of Destiny's Rainbow itself has been reduced a bit, but there are more, because as more people have been practicing these like mystic arts connected to it, sort of more smaller pockets of it have sprung up around the homeland. So it's a less concentrated threat now, but there is more you know, it's possible to kind
like
of
these chaos
find
mages are taking portions of it and spreading it.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That seems fair. I believe at the start of Age, your family gets something, right? Yeah, Preservers of the Seas, right?
Yes, I think so. We do, although I think I have the three. I think I have the three surpluses that it provides already. I'll just double check that. Barter goods, trade, or transport, which I think. Yes, I do have all three of those currently.
Okay,
I do get progress, however, for the Great Network,
that's right.
And
which I've added.
how does it work, Lowell, with the capital? Do we still use the items that were built there, like the
Yep.
Great
Yep.
Market?
If you've still got, and you reset it, so you still have control of it. If you get a benefit from that, it still works.
And then I think the river folk were in charge of the Great Market, so they should get barter goods at the beginning of an age.
So they got barter goods, barter goods, barter goods.
And then let's see, what does it say? Barter goods at the beginning of an age to erase a point of treaty they hold over you. Oh no, so as long as you can give barter goods to someone else to erase a point of hold over them.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your new character. Who is Dew's successor?
So yeah, I will be bringing in Flood's Surging Strength. She is in the Saint playbook. So what I kind of so the Saint is kind of like an emergency services worker sort of thing. That's sort of the idea behind it. And I think in the case of Flood, I think she's almost kind of like the like what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of a coast guard, I guess, kind of the lifeboat service, that sort of thing, specializing in sort of rescuing people from shipwrecks and other waterborne mishaps, but obviously has some expertise in things like fighting fires and medical attention as well. She is quite not like super tall, but she's relatively tall. She's got that kind of sinewy body that sort of comes from obviously kind of doing a lot of hard labor rather than sort of bodybuilding sort of thing. She's kind of got quite a strong featured, handsome sort of face with a strong gaze. Sort of always looks people in the eye as she's speaking to them. Yeah, she's as I say, I think she's a sort of probably captains a ship, and sort of spends a lot of her time traveling the waterways of the homeland, sort of helping out where needed.
What do you suppose is the biggest sort of disaster that comes on the waterway? Is it storms? Is it annual flooding? Is it something else? Is it monsters?
I think it's probably the most common one is flooding. The waterways, I think, are probably I think the riverfolk do some kind of like river management stuff, but it's still because of the strange nature of some of the areas that the rivers flow through. The well, not tides, but the currents and the sort of whatever you call it, the flow of the rivers are unpredictable, and there can be sort of sudden floods and sudden bad weather without it necessarily being predictable.
What role is Flood's surging strength, or I'm going to just call her Flood. What is Flood's role?
That's a good question. I think I am actually just going to start her out in Agent, which is mark when you lend your aid to a disaster. Name a victim who found true companionship in healing, and the GM will tell you what threat now looms over them.
So in this flooding disaster, who have you rescued and has kind of stayed with you? Is it somebody from your own family or somebody from another family?
I think it's maybe somebody who was once a part of the originally part of the river folk, but they are now an inhabitant of the is it Present City? It's called they're part of this of the settlement of pilgrims outside the sanctuary.
Okay.
I think they
Presence Town.
Yeah, that's it. I think they now go by the name I think they just go by the name Serenity now.
Okay. And I think that you will know that Serenity is one of the people who over the last 50, 60 years from among the presents have really gotten it. And when people speak to them, they definitely have the sense that this is someone who has taken in the teachings and has found a way to kind of come out and synthesize it and not be too militant, and almost like you can tell that they're enlightened in a certain way, which makes them certainly the damned puts a bullseye on their back from the damned.
Sure thing.
All right. I think that gives us a good sense of where we are here in the sense of things. So we've rolled out, we're 30, 40 years later. Well, actually, let me ask you this. I have one last question. How do you know Axel? How you've met Axel? How is that? How do you think that occurred?
That's a good question. So I think initially it may just have been as I mentioned, that the seeds have been kind of relying on transportation from the river folk to an extent. So I think maybe the first time we met was possibly just a sort of fairly normal, they needed transportation somewhere around the homeland. But I think there maybe was a some sort of, I think there maybe was some sort of beach, maybe some of those maybe some of the giant turtles that we encountered previously had been kind of a sort of bull turtle had kind of got into a part of the river it shouldn't have been in, and was causing issues there. And I think I maybe worked with Axel to take it down.
Axel, does that work for you? Good. Okay. And how have you crossed paths with the ancient invulnerable Soft?
That's a good question.
Leandro, feel free to suggest as well.
No, I was going for David to go first. See if they have any ideas.
I'm wondering if maybe there had been an outbreak of the what's it called, the weird darkness nano gel,
The strife endured.
yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe we'd sought the assistance of the wave in dealing with it.
Yeah, well, you do have so much treaty on us. Decent amount. Yeah, I think sometime probably. Yeah, in somewhere in that 3 decades, yeah, the wave would probably be okay for that. I think probably soft, like, but that is her job. She is like the envoy slash de facto leader of the wave, and I guess like when this outbreak kind of happened, she figured she's not friends with the river folk. Probably not with the seeds. Given all that happened, yeah, and I think part of like why her role now is to like gather allies. She probably like, yeah. I don't think we interacted that much, probably.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of obvious you were kind of like leading the charge in curing this outbreak, at least amongst the river folk. And so you'd stand out anyway.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Excellent. So let's then let's come to the wave. What do we see of the wave when we come in with them? Right now, they are in an okay place. They're balanced between their surpluses and their needs, but those needs still remain. And the recruits, many people, more developed culture, that question of revenge still haunts them. So, what has been sort of the inciting incident? What is going on when we come back to the wave?
Ooh, yeah. Thing is, those needs, they don't jive with what I want. Which is what Soft promised her people, which
Right.
is that revolution in energy. Let's see. Do the visitors still kind of worship them?
Yeah, we didn't establish any kind of change. They're a strong connection there. Would you want to try and bring some of them more fully into the fold?
Yeah, I think this has been like, yeah, years, decades long process of like finally the wave is sharing their technology, not just to like, because there's not, because there's only so many of them, and this nanogel stuff can like really help with people. It can help with people who are sick or who are disabled and whatnot. I mean, it let the wave traverse many different biomes. I think this decade, this last turning age was like when the wave felt somewhat secure enough to be able to start sharing that. And I think, well, there is an ulterior motive. The wave is hoping to like encompass enough territory through the visitors to get to the lost dam, so they don't have to go through the river folk to get there. Not that they couldn't, because they've got those ships, but they do want to like hold some ground.
So do you think this is claimed by force, or do you have another approach you want to take to this?
I think it is kind of claimed by force, but it's a bit softer than that.
Right.
That
Oh
move.
yeah. And there's a lot of range within that. It means you're really exerting. In political science terms, force is a very abstract concept. So it's you exerting power in a particular way. So would you use tech to give you advantage on that?
How much tech? I have a lot of tech. Yeah, I'll spend 1 tech.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's simple. Yeah, it's gonna roll with grasp. Let me see, do I have anything that can add to that? No. I have one about invading, but that's not what I'm doing.
Right.
All right.
If everything fails, you could always orbital bombardment.
I would like to use that move at least one. No, let's see what happens first more. That's a 9.
That is a 9. So while it is yours, you are going to be able to get those recruits to take care of that need. You're going to need to choose 2 from that list.
I think I definitely commit more assets to securing it. I think I'm absolutely tying my spies to these recruits. I forgot I had those. Basically, what it means is just like, it means kind of like most of my efforts, because those spies originally originated as a operation against the Sky Children. They've shut themselves away. Almost all of them are getting directed towards the visitors to make sure, they should acclimate to the wave. So yeah, I'll tie my spies to that. I'll get rid of this need of recruits. And the second one is, I don't want to get another need, so I hurt somebody. Who would that be?
Do you think it's the damned? Do you think it's someone else?
Ooh, I mean, every time I interact with the damned, it's always with a, are you gonna stab me in the back as soon as I turn to look away from you? That's every time I interacted with them.
But
That's
they
the
haven't
feeling.
yet. They haven't stabbed you in the back once.
It's been 4 decades. They haven't. Yeah.
No, I don't know why you're so paranoid about these things.
You're putting on your vizier voice. That's why.
I
am. If not the damned, I'd be, because they seem like the most logical ones, because they're also kind of like vying for control visitors. And even though I told them last session that, like, no, we're not actually setting ourselves up as gods to the visitors. We kind of are.
No, they're fine with you setting yourself up as false gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
If anyone has any other suggestions, let's see, who else would we have heard? I mean, people we're not belligerent against. No take 2 3. No, don't say the river folk. I'm not gonna bump that up to.
No, not the digits. 8 that you already owe. We could get it up to double digits.
I mean, I almost want to do it because it's funny. But what are you gonna do with 10 treaty? You have all the surpluses you could ever want.
But you have some that they don't have. So was it the damned then?
Yeah, the damned.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, you send your people in. You capitalize on the groundwork that you've laid for the past several decades, and gifts and symbols are shared, and those visitors will find, that we're kind of lost spiritually. We'll find a connection to the wave, with maybe the idea that maybe someday everyone's going to go to the stars. That this thought that they will move on, and you managed to interfere with a number of plans of the damned, and they come back and indicate to you their displeasure, which results in this couple of treaty that they have on you at that point. Let's come to to Axel and our siege. Your family is kind of changed a bit, but what do they want? What are they looking to do? They are in a decent place. I mean, they've got several surpluses, and only a need for justice.
So the crazy idea I had was going for the total war. But that means I need to get 2 surpluses, which is transportation and recruits. But I think this would be more of like Axel leading the sub faction than the full family.
Sure.
So maybe that's what causes the final split between the 2 factions of the family here. So I think what I was going to try to do is conduct diplomacy with the visitors to try to
Okay.
get the transport. And then also maybe go down to Presence Town, since they have they are also probably aligned against the damned pretty strongly. But I don't know how to do this mechanically well, because if I get one more surplus, I'm going to hit flush with resources.
Well, this is the thing. You can invest those surpluses in the project, and then they are off the table from you. You can't use them when they're invested. Once you've committed them, they're gone, but they don't count towards that 3+. But they're invested, which also means they can get blown up.
Okay.
Work against that project. So do you want to invest a couple of those?
Well, yeah, I'll invest 2 right now. So I'll just put a strike through them.
Okay.
And then I guess we'll go conduct some diplomacy with the visitors.
So let me ask you this: what is going on in your family towards this? I mean, you're investing in total war. What is going on in your family with the resources, the surpluses that you're investing there?
So I think this is again, I think it's Axel is leading the sub faction, and I think that they are kind of siphoning off enough weaponry to start putting some teams together to go in and try to strike at the heart of the Dark Crystal. And I think they are putting their leadership and their kind of reputation on the line in doing this, and that's where the leadership resource gets kind of sunk, because if it kind of becomes full knowledge of the full family, because I think the rest of the elders are kind of have settled in and things have calmed down. I think even between the wave and our people over the last couple decades, I mean, we're not maybe best of friends, but we're not at each other's throats. So
Right.
I think they're kind of fine with the status quo, and there's research coming in, and we're slowly building and repairing things. So I think this is under the hood, so to speak.
That makes sense. So let's have you go ahead and roll with your reach.
Oh shoot! Can someone send the link to the?
Oh yeah, I'll grab that. Copy. I'll drop that in the chat. There you go.
And I was going to spend a point of tech in the form of us bringing them some technology to help with kind of setting up remote sensing on their flocks.
Okay.
To get advantage here. So. Uh, 10, 11.
So you will get a data, and you come and talk to them about these transports that you've heard about, so on. And the visitors, I mean, you notice that there are many more artifacts and markings and signs and symbols of the wave amongst the people. That's certainly been a cultural shift amongst them. And you come and talk to some of their clan leaders, and they will say, we haven't really used the transports because they are mechanical, they're back in the far hills, and they have a mind of their own. But if you wish access to those places, we will give you free passage to there. Does that as a sign of friendship and a sign of trade between our two peoples?
That sounds excellent, but I am intrigued when you say a mind of their own.
they're mobile on their own. They are mechanicals, but they move their own volition.
Ah, okay. That sounds at most excellent. We would be happy to engage with your folk on a more regular basis. And we would also like to share more knowledge with you. If you are interested, we can send a research team here to work with you.
They will say certainly. Of course, we are beneficiaries of the great and high technology of the wave. And while I'm sure that you have magnificent things and discoveries, the wave has taught us so much. And we look forward to the day when will rise and return to the stars.
Well, the wave certainly does have great technology, and we're not proposing that we bring you to the stars, but we have been adapting some of their things here and there for practical everyday uses that I think many of your people would find interesting, because the wave, they don't have the same needs as us. They don't eat the same way that we do. They don't do many of the same things that we do. And so the kind of day-to-day adaptations that we have come across can be quite novel sometimes.
I hear what you're saying, but we consider ourselves part of the wave. But yes, please bring your
Certainly,
your
we're
research.
not trying to impose ourselves.
No.
It's just I wanted to offer that in case there was interest.
No, we just do. There's long stories of your people's interactions with other factions like the Warren and so on. So we'll excuse our nervousness on this.
Sure, certainly. We do defend ourselves when necessary.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's come to the river folk. What are the river folk up to in this new era? What is going on? I believe, you're at, as we said, a pretty decent balance point. Actually, a little bit ahead of the game right now. Muted.
Oh, yeah. So I think what I feel is probably the most pressing concern for the river folk at the moment. As I say, they're doing quite well for themselves in general, but I think in the trend they've certainly been following so far of kind of dealing with the practical things first. I think they would like to find a way of addressing that need for crops. And I was wondering if the primordial concurrence might be able to help out with that.
So you want to go and speak to them?
Yes. Yep.
So you'll send your people down there. This is a diplomatic mission. So let's have you go ahead and roll.
Certainly. And likewise, I think I am going to spend a tech on this.
There's been some misunderstandings with the concurrence before, so probably a good idea.
Indeed. So I think it's probably. I think it's we've got some methods that we've been using for countering the influence of this strange nano plague stuff, and I think maybe we kind of help to clear some of the land around that's closer to where they are at the moment, as sort of to open up the dialogue, as it were. And that's a 13 in total. So
you go to speak with them. It's been 30, 40 years. There've been those encounters, those exchanges. In that time, a better system of communication has evolved. maybe symbolic, maybe some learning some language, some exchange on that side. And they do meet with you, and they listen to your concerns, and they will say, we will help you with this. We will help you with the crops that you require, the foodstuffs that you need. We can give you seedlings for algae farms, sea farms, farms in the lake to grow what you need.
Thank you. That would be most kind of you. And is there anything we may do in exchange?
Well, yes, I'm glad you asked. So in exchange for this, we would like to, and this would be as a means of helping to tend to these things, we would like to establish a significant outpost of our people in the lake. Then we would send caretakers and so on. It would give us contact and access with the North, so that we might better carry out our mission of keeping the world safe from this infestation. And the bulk of our peoples there would be dedicated to growing, tending, and providing this lake farmland for you.
That sounds like a fair trade, I think. The strange powers that blight this this land are a danger to us all, and I'm sure we can work together to help control them.
And I think once they get moving, it is remarkably fast that they're able to take care of that crop situation for you. But on the flip side, it's remarkably fast that they're able to move into that area, and they grow and set things up with a speed that makes you somewhat a little nervous at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's come back to the wave.
Yeah.
Your people do mention, you will hear information about that they've been contacted by the seeds, and seeds have offered them some technical assistance.
I think for the moment, the waves kind of like just file that as something to keep watch. I think because at the same time that like they're moving through. Sorry, I'm just looking at my hair and getting annoyed. As they're
I
moving
got
through
all this static going on today. I've had my colic up like alfalfa earlier, so
it's not great. Yeah, so I think while that's kind of happening, I think probably the spies are like keeping watch over that situation.
I hear spies. Does that mean you're using your subterfuge?
I mean, I want to, but like I think there's another thing I'm more interested in. It's
fair enough.
You got so excited. I know.
I know.
I know
Because that's gone so well for you in the past.
It kind of has. We confused the Sky Children. We bamboozled the Sky Children well enough. And then
the second time, if you may recall, the first time they murdered your people.
Oh yeah, it was yeah. So yeah.
But go on.
I think
water under the bridge.
Exactly. It's been how many decades?
Yeah.
Like who even remembers that happened? Besides Soft, who was probably there.
Yes. So what are you up to? What does family want?
Yeah, I think because one of they were uncovering lore last session, and one of the things that they discovered is like to get the engineering needs that they need for their project, they need to establish good relations with the folks at the library. Sorry, the the library with the unpronounceable name.
Yes.
I mean, I can pronounce it, but like,
Pronounce it once, so I
yeah.
hear what it sounds like, and I'm still going to call it the unpronounceable.
Yeah, it's the Cuiva O'Kelleg Memorial Library. Yeah, I think yes. I think this isn't a claiming by force. I think this is a proper like diplomatic sort of
Okay.
treaty with them. Mainly because Soft knows she has a friend there, or maybe had a friend. I don't know. It's been decades.
That is do you think Radical is still alive at this point, Axel?
I think Radisson is probably
Axel.
alive, but venerable at this point.
Yes.
Because this is probably, I think, 50 years, at least 60 years since the start of and they were 20 at that point, probably. So they're up there, and I think they're
hooked up to the library.
Yeah, and their duties are light, probably.
So let's have you roll conduct diplomacy then.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend a tech for this. I think
that resource. You're losing money not using it.
Yeah, especially since this is the last session. All right, so that's with reach. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a 7.
That is a 7. So you're going to get a data. That's the nice part.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get help from a third party to kind of get access. Who is that third party?
I think it has to be the Seeds.
Okay.
And I think this is kind of like tied into the Seeds encroaching into visitors' territory, and the Wave is kind of like, yeah, we're not gonna do anything about that. Water under the bridge, or so I've heard.
Right.
It's been decades since our last sort of troubles, so we're not gonna do that. But we do request a favor to smooth the way to talking to the folks at the library.
And you will talk to one of these senior librarians, and you have the sense that they have spoken with Radisol, that maybe they're even in communication with them, and this person comes and you have knowledge you wish.
Yes, we believe we're on the cusp of changing the world, and we just need a little bit more help to get there.
We can help you. We can provide you what you want. But this is going to require an exchange.
Absolutely.
We are aware through the librarian that you took a set of data from the ship in the south, from the Mystified. You traveled there to gather data on your people, information on your people. We want a copy of that.
May I ask, what would you do with it?
We would store it. It is a library, after all.
That is fair. I wouldn't come here and take your knowledge from me without exchange. I wouldn't do that to my friend.
Well, then, when you bring us that, we provide you access to the tech and the records that you require.
I think Soft nods, and again, Soft still looks exactly the same over the decades. Oh, there is like one difference. Her eyes have changed. Let me see if I can find the. Yeah, I think her eyes aren't human anymore. They're actually the. If you ever see like some cuttlefish, they have those like weird squiggly like holes that are just holes and not exactly like eyes, or at least there's like a squiggle. I think that's what her eyes look like now. And actually, it was exactly the same. And I think before she kind of leaves to go grab the copy, whatnot.
Mhm.
She says like, I assume the good librarian Radical is quite busy, but if you see him, would you mind passing this along? And she hands out like a yo-yo.
This person looks at it and, examines it like, is this a weapon? Is this a bomb? I will take this to them. And well, wow. Do you turn over the data?
Yeah.
Then
I have no
you,
qualms against this lottery.
yeah, if you turn over the data free and clear as promised, you will be able to solve that engineering issue. Does that sound fair? I think you're freezing up just a little there, or I am.
Fab. I got the gist of it.
Okay.
I got engineering.
Yeah, you gave them their stuff. You will get engineering solved. Let's come back to our the seeds. Do you want to mount an expedition to go and get these transports?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So doing the diplomacy didn't acquire that then yet.
Gave you free access to that. It's going to take a claim by force to get it, but
Okay.
they will set you up and give you free range on that. I think the diplomacy there will mean that you'll have advantage on this roll.
So that's a grasp.
And you could ask another family to help you if you wanted. Oh no, actually, that's just advantage. So you've already got advantage, so it doesn't matter.
I guess I'll just roll if I can find the window width that I put before your party in. There it is. All right. A 6.
So tell me what these things are. What are these transports that have an anima, that have an intelligence to them?
You said they're mechanical?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what they are is they're almost like large bug-shaped things that feed off of minerals in the ground, and so they like to go to certain places and where they can find the minerals, and then they kind of bore down underneath the surface. But they're big.
They're big. I think that you will be able to get them and be able to get control of them. What does it take to bring these things to bear?
I think it's a chemical. I think the driver, so to speak, ingests a certain concoction of chemicals, and then they start to secrete like a pheromone or something, a hormone through their skin, and that allows them, when they make contact with these creatures, to be able to communicate with them.
Absolutely. And you will bring them back. Tell me, what are the symptoms of the plague that they carry?
I think that it's a sickness of the mind, and which is like the worst thing for researchers, right? Because it just makes you kind of space out and get a little dreamy, and it makes it really hard to concentrate on your research.
Yeah, and this will strike your family, and you will gain a need for medicine. But you have the transports now. Does that seem like a fair for a 6?
Sure. Advantage.
Let's come back to the Riverfolk. What is the next step in your grand plan?
That's a good question. I am tempted to just steal a surplus of somebody to use my new move. However, I think actually what I'm going to do is I think we are actually going to kind of commit to like trying to do something about the strife endured. I am calling it the right thing again, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I said we want to kind of try and work out how we might go about stopping, reducing, preventing the spread of this thing any further.
Sure.
I think what I would like to do though is enlist the I would like to enlist the waves help with this. So I'd like to spend a treaty to get them to back me up basically on this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to resist that.
Okay.
Even if I did, you'd win in the long run.
Yeah. So in they come to you to ask for your aid in dealing with this. So let's have you roll lend aid then, Wave.
So I roll how much treaty I have with them?
Yep.
On them? Or
Yep.
Okay. So I have 3 on them.
So roll +3. Look at that.
Okay. Yeah. You have good relations. Well, lopsided relations. Ooh, that's a 15? Yeah.
You give them advantage, and if things go terribly wrong, you are not going to suffer the consequences.
Yeah. We know how to not suffer the consequences of the strife endured. That's what we've been doing for the past 5 decades.
Yeah. And I guess this is probably going to be a
uncover lore, you think?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yep.
How much data do you want to spend?
What's my data looking like at the minute? I'll go for spending 2, I think. I should have spent 3. That's a 9.
That is a 9. So you get 1 question.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be what is the truth behind the strife endured, or the nano plague, whatever you want to call it.
Originally, the nano plague was this gel that was sent out. You know, that was something that the wave would have scrubbed, but because of the way they landed here and so it got out of control. So that was what is originally. But over the last several decades, we have seen the Beloved move over and has been working with the strife. They have those connections. And what it is they are working on a grand scale project to create a kind of gravatic warp launcher, like reworking this area of the strife into a launcher, which will allow them to move back out to the stars. Now, mind you, it's going to destroy the magnetic field of the planet when it does it. but they're that's what they're working on.
Excellent.
Does that seem like a fair answer?
Yeah, that seems eminently fair.
Let's take a 5-minute break and then we will come back. All right. So we got a couple of ways that we can do this, depending on what level you want to move at. My sense is that people would like to continue to push at the family level to kind of move forward on that. Does that seem fair? Yeah, because I mean, obviously we could zoom in, but that'd probably eat up the rest of the time. But if you're cool with it, we'll continue to do the family move stuff until we get to a good stopping point. So let's in that same order we've been running around. Let us come back to the wave. Let me ask this of the river folk. The wave helped you discover this information.
Yeah.
Do you share that with the wave?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And we will probably also let the seeds know, because this seems definitely A, something we need to stop, and B, something that's kind of in their ballpark. So
it does suggest that that place, the Beloved Over Strife, people have invested a lot of resources into that. Who knows? It could hold a bounty. So let's come back to the wave.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Were you going to use orbital bombardment?
Oh man, it was either going to be this or more subterfuge, but I think the Beloved would know exactly how we conduct subterfuge, so they probably won't work that well against them. Man, I mean, I took that move. I might as well use it. I think, no, absolutely, this is the case. We've invested too much into this world. We're not going to let some people clinging to a dead doctrine ruin it for everyone else.
So tell me, what does your orbital bombardment look like? What system do you have? Is it satellites? Is it calling asteroids from orbit? Is it Sephiroth calling the meteor down? What do you think it is?
Sorry, you mentioned that. I'm just thinking, why was he called Safer Sephiroth? He wasn't that safe. Anyway, I like the idea of asteroids, and that I think part of an invasion is we've placed some abandoned, like, dormant booster rockets on some asteroids that are kind of been floating around, and we've just decided, all right, now's the time to use them. That's the time to, like, just triangulate the Beloved's position and hopefully just smash it all down.
Okay. Is it and we see these asteroids, we see the shots of them moving in orbit, and then we see the rain of them coming in on that position. Let's have you roll grasp.
Right. No, I probably should spend my last point of tech, but I'm more.
Yeah, you might have more.
I want to get a project.
I would, in theory, be willing to lend aid, but I don't know how useful we can actually be, given you're just dropping meteors on the whole place.
Likewise.
Okay, I do have a. Yeah. Oh, good. I think I'll keep my tech for the moment because I have a grasp of 2.
Yeah. With a 2, you're pretty virtually guaranteed.
Watch me roll snake eyes, because I just rolled boxer's tree. Yeah, no, that's a 6.
That's a 6, you say?
Yes, that is a 6.
So I think you call down those meteors from orbit, and I think they come down, and I think that they are ready for that. I think that they are ready and waiting, and I think as they kind of hit near orbit, you will see other boosters fire, and their course will change. And I think that they will pepper the area where the spoken ship is. what do you think is an appropriate surplus cost? Or a new need as they barrage your area?
Probably need some morale. Although I don't want to give up my surplus because unless I have to, or I have to hold it together or something. But let me look at the kind of surplus needs we can have.
Yeah, if do you want to resist that? Do you want to resist this imposition I'm about to do? I'm willing to let you roll the hold together.
Yeah, I kind of want to resist that. I see. Yeah, I know. I'm betting. I'm betting on this dice rollers, which historically have not been great. Um, I might just take the need. Actually, I might take the need of morale.
Okay.
Because I think what it looks like, even though our wave has like expanded so much in the past decades, we've made inroads. We've got some territory. We've got some recruits and whatnot. In terms of being the dancing wave using our technology, it looks like the beloved, despite kind of being keeping to themselves and being subject to the Sky Children, they're still kind of like on top of that. So our morale is hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it will be pretty clear that the beloved realize that they've been found out and they will accelerate their timetable. Let's come to the seeds. If only you'd asked for help.
I think Axel is going to stay the course. And maybe this means the end. I don't know. Maybe I'll put this out to the rest of the table. Because I could see two things happening here. One is that the way I was going to go is that Axel was going to go to Presence Town and talk to, was it Serenity?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's weighed on Axel that Quartz kind of sacrificed himself. And so I think Axel's also actually been learning the tenets of the presence, and wants to engage Serenity to go and take a shot at the damned, with the total war. But now that we have this new information, I don't know what to do. Because if there's not a planet around, it doesn't really matter.
And if you go and talk to Serenity, Serenity will say, listen, it is holy to protect those who cannot protect themselves.
But is it holy to protect those who are doing harm unto others?
Do you think that if you carry out this war, that situation will continue with this destruction that is promised over us? How much is this about your own heart? And how much is it about the needs of the many?
I know that Quartz would probably tell me the same thing that you just told me. But the damned struck at us through the Warren, and Quartz lost himself there. So I guess you're right. This is probably more about me than the many. But I owe Quartz. We stood on the dock. It should have been me that stayed, but he stayed behind.
Let me say one more thing. Who caused the Warren in the first place to strike at you? I know the stories, and I know it was your own people's assaults on them that started this cycle. You have the chance to prevent another cycle of vengeance.
But don't you find the damned to be unholy? Don't you think if the Sky Children were still here, they would be aggressively countering their moves?
I believe that there is a possibility for redemption of everyone.
That's a lot to take on. But I guess the damned will be here even after we put an end to this beloved mess. So we'll start there.
So what would you do then, Axel?
Well, does anybody have recruits? I have nobody has recruits. I think I could do total, if I can get recruits, I can do the total war thing, or I'm happy to just either reach out to everyone and attempt to claim by force, or if folks want to zoom in, the three of us could all go in there together. I'm happy to do whatever everyone's interested in.
We could do a claim by force, and we can kind of narrate your role in that if you want to have the others assist. Do you want to maybe roll it out that way?
Sure. What is that? How does that sound to others?
Yeah, that works for me.
So the question is, who wants to actually roll the lend aid and potentially take on the consequences?
Yeah, I will happily do so. As I feel like, yeah, I'm in a better position to actually help with the seeds approach to this.
So let's have you go ahead and roll, and then let's kind of narratively set up what's going on here. You're muted.
David, you're going to roll first.
That's a total of 5, so not much help, I'm afraid.
That is a total of 5. I'm going to tell you the cost of that in a second when we get into this. Leandro, do you want to help?
Yeah. This is aimed at the. Is this claim by force? Who's this aimed at exactly again? Sorry.
He aimed essentially at the beloved over strife to essentially claim that territory there, claim the resource to bring them to a stop.
All right. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'll aid at that.
What's your treaty with the seeds?
The seeds. It is a 2.
Look at that.
Yeah. What happened? Given. No, that happened. That's an 8.
It's an 8. So you will potentially suffer the consequences of this. So let me have you, Rye, tell me what does this actually look like? If the seeds are going to go in, what are the preparations? What are we going to see on screen? And then I'm going to check in with the others about how they're augmenting that.
Yeah. I think this is they're taking some of these new transports, these giant mechanoid bug things that can fly. They're retooling their power armor to be effective against wave technology. And maybe what that is embedding it with some nanogel that can kind of understand the tactics and kind of give a boost to the operatives as they go in.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they use softs people help them kind of set that up. And then
What kind of weapons are mounted on these things? Is it
Um,
just them sweeping with force, or are there actual weapons? What do you think?
well, I think that what they do is they tool up a couple of these large gemstones onto either side of these things. And these are new technology that the seeds have developed that kind of expand the force of their own magical abilities. And so then they can kind of channel their, what are those blaster things called?
Oh, the
They're
morphing pistols?
pistols, yeah,
Yeah.
through these giant quartz gems into kind of big laser beam things.
And tell me, what are the seeds doing to help when this assault going on? Sorry, not the wave. What is the wave doing to as this is happening? You are muted, Leander.
But you said seeds, so
I know. I correct myself. I should have said the wave.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think definitely we're adding that the seeds, but I think what we're doing is we're kind of like gathering our forces as well, because if this messes up, I'm rolling invading armies move that I have. So I think it's more like a show of defiance, like this is still operable. So it's kind of like a reverse of when we showed up at the at the archipelago, but now we're kind of like floating above like Project Sunbeam because I think we still have control over that. And it's more like a show of force, or like kind of a distraction, I suppose. Like so they won't see the seeds coming.
And how are the river folk helping?
So I think the river folk are helping literally just with some manpower. They are sending people who are armed with the sort of like pressurized harpoon gun type things that the river folk tend to use. In all honesty, they're probably not very effective because this isn't really their sort of area of expertise at all. But you know, they're here to help
through numbers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think when the time comes, when the battlefield arises, when the seeds are getting their troops in place, they're marching forward with these multiple bugs coming across the countryside. We've seen the ships flying and the wave drawing off the attention, and we see these support people from the river folk. I think there is the moment when they're like, okay, well, we could just wait here. When the bloom occurs, and I think we see plant grow out of them. And we see the concordance wanting to make sure that this gets done, essentially have infected the people that you've sent and throw them like a human wave into the battlefield, flowery and grassy in front of you, which will need recruits. You will gain. And it's kind of terrifying, Axel, when you see these people that you were talking to just a couple of hours ago suddenly vegetate and then rush the grounds. You have advantage, Rye.
That's an 11.
That is an 11. So your bugs, the concordance paves the way, because when they die, they explode in a bloom of vegetation that weakens this, and then your lasers will cut through this. It's in the middle of this first wave of assault that the beloved realizes that the work of the dancing wave is a feint, and they're desperately trying to move back to seize this. Tell me, what does it look like when you bring down their ship? When you bring the beloved down?
I think it is, these lasers are just like cutting into it, and it just starts leaking fluid everywhere. And it's kind of like, it's like if you had like a big blow up kiddie pool with a bunch of holes in it. It's just like crumpling inward slowly. And then as it cascades down into this, the strife endured, I think it just is like explode, like if you've ever thrown like water into a pile of ash, just like out. So
Dust and wet and mud, and we will see those crystals give way and collapse. And I think you can remove the need for justice. I think you have done something righteous, and your people will feel it. Let me ask the wave, what's the emotion amongst your people when, I mean, they're split from you, but they're still your brethren?
Yeah.
When the other part of the ship that probably would have been necessary to go back, it's destroyed.
Yeah, I think like if, so in some ways the wave's kind of glad they weren't the ones to make the final blow. But it's still them. This is kind of, I think in their history, this is going to be like a decisive point where like this is them deciding fully to stay here, or at least if they're gonna leave, if they ever gonna go back to the stars again, it's gonna be on, not at the expense of everyone else who's living here. But definitely, I think the celebrations are muted because absolutely there are people there that people knew. Not everyone, probably not everyone from that faction is probably dead, but probably most of them are either dead or lost. I think, yeah, there's no one wants to celebrate fully that they've kind of like cut this vital part of their heritage away, but it had to be done.
That absolutely makes sense to me. Then let's cut to the river folk. What's their reaction in the aftermath of this, and what do they do next?
Yeah, so I think there is quite a lot of outcry amongst the river folk over the precise circumstances of sort of what happened. So I think it's that sort of like, because I said the river folk are primarily sort of an enlightened anarchy. So the people's own right to decide what they themselves do is quite important. So it's that sort of thing. It's like we kind of accepted that everyone who went there to fight may have died and not come back, but that choice was taken away from them.
Right.
So I think that is very much sort of coloring the tenor of the of how this is received. There's still kind of muted celebration
You mute.
Oops, I hit my spacebar.
I heard you say
the-
muted celebration, and then you went mute. So
Yeah, yeah. So no, exactly. There's sort of slightly muted celebration because obviously they are well aware of the import of what was done, but I think it's definitely soured relationships between the river folk and the concurrents.
So what do they do? What does your family move to do?
Oh, that's a good question.
'Cause they're the ones supplying, assisting with your crops and your food supply. They're the ones in the middle of the lake.
I think that what the I think that what the river folk will do in the immediate aftermath is basically try and extract an apology from the concurrence and a sort of public show of yeah, regret,
Yeah,
penance,
yeah.
what have you. Yeah.
I think that's going to be conduct diplomacy.
Yep, certainly. That's an 8.
That is an 8. So you get a data. And who is it that helps you kind of broker this meeting?
I wonder if it's actually I wonder if it is maybe the people from Presence Town. I think maybe they are definitely urging sort of restraint and in the aftermath of this.
Absolutely. And what kind of demonstration is it? You can tell that they don't quite understand what the problem is, and it takes a while for that to get to them, that they understand that they should not have done this, and they will agree to not do this in the future.
Yeah. I think I like the idea that maybe they plant some sort of like groves of trees that have kind of a particular like significance to them and kind of entrust them entirely into the hands of the river folk.
Like essentially they will go and they will plant alongside your settlements there cedars that
Yeah.
will grow fast, quick, and strong. Great tall trees, the kinds of things that could be used to make ships or repair ships and so on. And they will go, and then they will withdraw from those spots to make it clear that they're being given over to you. Does that seem fair?
That sounds good. Yeah.
You can tell though they're like still maybe didn't quite exactly understand what happened, but they understand this needed to occur. Let's come back to the wave in the aftermath of all of this. What's the wave's next step here to pave the way to the future?
Yeah. Part of me wants to like, all right, we've dealt with that problem. Let's keep going with what we're meant to be doing. It's just like one surplus away. But like, I think the wave is kind of like, they got a need of morale, which means they're kind of like it's hard to make them do anything
Mhm.
as a group. I feel like I need to rectify that first before going for the last surplus we need for this revolution. I'm trying to figure out how that would be.
You could, to try and figure out what would be the proper way, you could certainly do uncover lore.
Hmm.
That's the way to figure that out.
Yeah, I think I'll do that because I think I know where to get scavengers. That's the last thing I need. And that's
Right.
in the Lost Dam because I put them there. So yeah, I think just because I think fiction just makes sense. Waves a bit
Sure.
down. They've had to help. They had to help their own kind kind of get destroyed. So yeah, I'll roll uncover lore. How much data do I have? I'll spend. Sure, I'll spend both.
Okay.
So, plus 2. And just like that's a 9.
That is a 9.
So yeah, how do we remove the need for morale?
I think that given the strikes that have occurred, given the hiding that has occurred, that your people want like a big public demonstration that the Wave are part of this world, that they have committed, that they will be open and trade and will not suffer at the hands of others. They will be treated as equals amongst the families. They could, because they're like, what if these people decided they wanted to destroy us? We need to make it clear that they can't do that. That we are here, that we are all in this together now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's figure out how to do that.
Yeah. What do you think could be that Soft could do to?
Well, I've already done a move, so if you want to, I think about it.
Sure. Think about that, and we can figure out how to resolve that. The seeds are flush with their victory.
If only they could concentrate on it to enjoy it. I think that I was going to go after that last resource I need, but I think they need to deal with this need for medicine first. And I think what they would do is reach out to the Wave, because the Wave has had dealings with the visitors for longer, so may have known about this or had some exposure to it, and they are the ones that originally, way back in the beginning, helped cure our previous, I think, ailment with their nanogel. So I think what we would do is I would like to go and talk to them, see if they know where
How much treaty do you have on them?
I have 3 treaty on them right now.
Okay. You could, if you wanted to, ask them to give up their medicines to you, and they would take a need medicine to eliminate your need of medicine. You could spend a treaty to do that. Or you can talk to them in a more, I mean, that's a pretty aggressive move, but you could just conduct diplomacy.
I think we would just conduct diplomacy because I think, well,
yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we just worked on this joint big military effort together, so We wouldn't want to lean on them too hard. So,
Let's have you roll reach.
let's see. Can I write to a family member in another settlement for insights?
Yeah.
And I think that this would be is, I think we have a group of researchers that have now moved up to the visitors.
Mhm.
And maybe they haven't really been taken in because there's still kind of some cold offstandingness there. But I think we write up there and ask them to talk with the visitors and say how we should approach this, because the visitors have had more of a long-standing work arrangement with them.
Sure. Do you roll with advantage? I think you get advantage on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 plus, that's reach 1, 7.
Okay. That's a squeaker. So you're going to get 1 data. I'm going to ask you, Leandro, what do they need to do to get the medicine that they need?
I think it's it's not so much an exchange of needs, because I don't want to inflict another need on
Sure.
because like they I think the wave, well, I want to get the last thing that I need for my project, which is scavengers. I don't know if like the seeds would necessarily have that or want to give that, but I think instead I'll address the morale bit. I think
Yeah. The basic question is they're coming to you and they're asking you about medicines. What do you tell them? Do you have it for them, or is there someplace they would go to get them? What do you imagine there?
ooh, I mean, I think, yeah, I don't think the wave would give them medicine. I think because they kind of figured, oh, these two seeds like to learn stuff. I think what the wave, as a way to like just show that like there's now trust between the wave and the seeds, the wave starts showing how like their nanogel kind of works, and so how you can like do what they've been meant to be doing, which was to terraform or rechange the strife endured or what's left over. So I think what the wave gives is like the means to like kind of do what the beloved was doing, but obviously not as fuel to destroy the magnetic field of the planet, but to like actually start help processing that space into something less invasive, something
Sure.
more useful.
So I think that I want the seeds to hold together to get through this trial. There's a process that goes on to see if they can make it through and resist and survive here. What is your mood currently?
Mood is currently +1.
Okay.
Can I spend a data?
Yeah.
Do that. I will use this new information that we gained from the wave. Okay, 9, 10.
10. So you will gain surplus morale if you don't already have it.
Already have
And I assume since they're the people that helped you, you'll give them a treaty on you.
Sure.
And within a few weeks of them providing this to you, you find the ways when you're, to combine what they're telling you to purge this and inoculate against this effect. Let's come back to the river folk.
Yeah. So I think in the I actually sorry, just checking on. Yeah, so I think that I'm going to
I see you have Startide Rising that you haven't used. I noticed that one.
yes, yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I am I might actually I suppose, how do you think it's likely we would be aware that you're looking for the hidden dam, Leandro?
I think probably. I think if one looked at the map and see where the wave is going for, it's probably a tad obvious. But like it's not like the most common knowledge. But I think anyone who's looking out for the geopolitics of this place can see like the wave is making a push up north.
Yeah. So I think that we might offer to provide you with some. It's possibly actually not too dissimilar to the sort of nanogel type stuff you use anyway, but I think maybe this sort of species of algae that can be used to kind of operate more effectively in an underwater. If you would be interested in doing so.
Yeah, funny thing, I was looking at the history I wrote down for the wave, and the question, which one of you controls a resource critical to survival, is the river folk. So this is probably, not that this has been going on for a while, but like I think this is just like an augmentation of that. It's like,
yeah.
Like
and what do we see on screen for the river folk? Is this more of a scientific thing? Is this more of a gathering thing? Is it more of a magical ritual? What is it that we see?
Yeah, so I think that this is I think that there is a sort of spiritual element to it. I think that this is I think that it's a fairly rare strain of algae that only grows in sort of certain places under certain conditions. So it's so that it's more assumed a ritual and spiritual significance because of its rarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe it's one of these plants where kind of like attempts to kind of mass produce it or mass cultivate it just haven't met with any success. It seems to be quite quite what's the word I was looking for? Quite fussy about its sort of conditions. And so I think it is there is a bit of like a bit of ritual about it. It's not just a case of like handing over like a barrel of this stuff. It is, there's a bit more yeah. And I think it is explicitly being offered as a kind of gesture of friendship and cooperation.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we'll see that transformation in some ways, bringing the wave closer to some of the things they had in the past. Let's come back to the wave.
Yeah, I think realize like the way to deal with this morale is again to provide to the wasteland, and to do that we need that last surplus to finally complete that project.
Do you want to go and try and get those scavengers?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. My initial instinct was to claim by force through forceful diplomacy.
Yeah, that's a way to go.
Yeah. So I think we just send like a bunch of fleets like in force. We would bring some recruits from the visitors just to show like, and also we've been augmented by the river folk now to show like, hey, waves not just, they're not just their own thing. They've been changed now. They're part of this place.
So they have to go a distance. It is in a fortified area. Are you spending tech?
Yes, absolutely. It's my last tech. I've learned my lessons from not spending tech.
Then here it is. This chance for you to get the scavengers to work towards the completion of your project. Let's have you roll with grasp.
Right. Okay, that's an 8. Even with 3 dice, that's an 8.
Choose 2.
Okay. I think again, it's more assets need to secure it. I'm just tying all my assets down. I don't even remember where the spice is tied to. Oh yeah, it's tied to the recruits. I think when we see this dam, it's held up, especially over the decades. But like even then, like this one person from the dam can only do so much. So I think part of our aggressive negotiations, to quote George Lucas, I think part of the offering is like, we'll help fix up this place, in exchange for your support for this project. So yeah, I'm gonna tie engineering to this place. And the second one is I don't know, it feels on brand to end this series with 4 needs. That seems like that's what should happen.
Yeah. And I think, let me look at the what would be appropriate here. Not prestige, because you've already done that. I think you're going to need have a need for defenses, because I do think you are spreading yourself out thin, and you don't have. I mean, you're devoting energy to other things, and so you're not able to maintain the kind of defenses that you've had historically in the past. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you will get a hold of these scavengers as you move towards your project. At the same time, in parallel, what is it that the seeds are doing?
Well, I wanted to do uncover secrets or uncover lore, with the hope of learning a little bit more about the damned. And then I'd like to get my recruits but it doesn't seem like Presence Town. Did I get the feeling that Serenity? I guess I got the feeling there that they would not help with that, so I need to go somewhere else to find some recruits.
Well, I think Serenity is an exception. We already established that Presence Town was a source for recruits for you, so I think that
Okay.
still stands as a
Okay.
as a thing.
Okay.
So you want to apply pressure to bring those recruits into your fold?
Yeah. I'll do diplomacy,
Okay.
and I will. I guess I'll spend a tech on that.
Okay.
Well, I'll just go down to 0 tech here right at the end. Oh, boxcars, 13.
Then in that case, I think you go in. You've already been priming people with the idea that this is our final. This is our time. This is the hour that we go and we deal with the damned. And Serenity might be shaking their heads, but there are so many that have want to bring the presence justice to the world. So I think you can get those recruits, and you wanted to uncover lore.
Yeah. I'm going to spend 2 data, and I'm going to tell you an interesting fact about the presence to get advantage from my deep knowledge. And that fact is that the damned can be summoned just like the Sky Children.
Oh,
So,
like maybe if you know their real name, kind of thing.
Yep. Eight, 10.
10.
All right.
So absolutely. What is your question?
What is the truth behind the damned?
The damned are immortal in the sense that their souls are immortal, but they're not their physical forms. And they can be destroyed and caged back into the dark crystal. But they're potent and powerful and dangerous. Does that seem like a fair answer?
Yeah. Can I ask it again in the sense for my second one? In
Sure.
the sense that, like, what do they want? That's kind of what I was hoping to get at. Yeah.
What do they really want?
Yes.
They want everyone in the homeland to violently and publicly reject the blessing of the presence.
All right, we can go wipe them out. I'm good.
Yeah, they want, that's what they want at heart. That's why they want false gods and all of that. They want that. River folk. In a second, I think we're going to come around and kind of sort of epilogue narrate, because we've got 2 projects that are kicking in here: the energy revolution and total war. And we'll kind of move to that. But what do you want to do before we kind of move to that stage, David?
I would. Sorry. Trying to avoid choking on water, which is kind of ironic.
Ironic.
But, yeah, I think that I would like to I think we might actually be looking to approach the people of Glasstown, and I think we're going to try and sort of patch up our relationship with them a bit, with the intent, maybe down the road of starting to draw some people from them as well to kind of address some of our needs. But I think in the interim, mostly just trying to kind of normalize relationships with them again since the war and the occupation and stuff in the past.
Then let's have you roll diplomacy.
Certainly, and yeah, I will spend a tech on this. As again, I think it's probably making kind of a making a sort of some gifts to them of devices that might be useful for their city. And that's a 10.
It's 10. I think that they will listen to you. And I think that they will say, we're on the river, but the river has never been kind to us. If you will show us the way to manage the river, that will go a long way to repairing this. If someone who can help us with that.
Yeah, and I think we will kind of volunteer some of our hydrologists or what have you to kind of work with them and sort of help with their sort of river management.
Excellent. We've got a couple projects. I want to hear what it looks like when these get activated. We're not going to resolve all the rules and things like that because that'd be crazy. But I want to know what it looks like. What does the energy revolution look like, and what is the epilogue here for the wave?
Yeah, I think what it looks like when it finally gets activated is people see the spoken kind of like lift up and perch itself on top of Project Sunbeam, which I think people only notice now has been being worked on all these decades. That it's pristine. It somehow it's stuck around all these decades because the wave has kept it like that, and it's like radio and connected with the spoken. Suddenly you hear this like pulse throughout, kind of like felt throughout kind of like the entire wasteland, and all the other outbreak pulsing as well. And I think what it looks like is like the spoken opens up and sends out this like beam up into the sky. It's kind of invisible. It's like an invisible beam, but like people know it's there. And I think like out there in space, this beam kind of reaches out and it starts like collecting solar radiation, unquantifiable, like undefinable bits of energy from space, and starts bringing it to the wasteland. And I think whenever the Project Zombie is activated, it looks like it's literally sucking in stars. It looks like a starfall falling down upon the wasteland. But I think the energy. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, I think, and that sort of energy is the sort that's kind of like it comes out in waves from the Dancing Waves outpost, and the type of energy that like if you can harness it, it will do so much for your community. And that's the thing, it's freely available provided you know how to harness it.
And I think the wave has been putting their tech out there for 40, 50 years. And so I think you've managed to put that out there such that it's going to reach to the furthest extent of that. We'll come back and talk about Soft's epilogue in just a second. When Axel goes to war to take the damned out, what does that look like?
It's a coalition effort for sure. I think Axel. I think the first thing is that they somehow come across some like undeniable evidence of the treachery of the damned and what they're up to. They take that to Soft. They take that back to Presence Town. They take it all the way down to the Primordial Concurrence, and they just do this branding effort to make these guys like public enemy number 2 since the Beloved are gone. And I think they even go to the Warren. And I think that there's a scene of Axel riding one of the Warren beasts into a battle with maybe 4 or 5 of the last damned that they've been hunting him down, I think, one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a last show off of them.
But there'll be a Lord of the Rings style long, big battle scene for the last climactic bit of that. Oh, yeah, we'll see the Warren, we'll see the Concordance. They'll have brought their beasts. We'll have seen people as far away as the Crystalline Labyrinth, maybe even the librarians there to help. The river folk, I assume, are there. And the wave. And you will take the net. What does it look like when you face and defeat the last of them, the last 5 lords of the damned?
I think as each one is defeated, they crumble away, and you see a crystal within the dark crystal, like a different facet, kind of re-energizing as their soul gets sucked back in there. And I think that we take the knowledge from the library and some of the Crystalline Labyrinth there, and we find a few flaws in the dark crystal where it was shattered, maybe even with the landing of the wave or something like that, and we're able to repair it.
Nice. I think there'll be the briefest of vision that Axel will have as this is finished off, as the last of the souls go into the dark crystal, and that maybe just out of the corner of your eye you'll see Quartz for just a moment.
Awesome.
What's the epilogue for the family for the river folk, David?
Yeah, so I think we just kind of get one of those like big, long, almost like opening of the of Game of Thrones style kind of panning shots around the homeland, where we just see sort of the waterways of the homeland that are sort of, I won't say crowded, but certainly like full of sort of boats plying their trade back and forth between various different settlements on the riverbanks. Sort of lots of greenery, lots of cultivation going on around these settlements, and largely just sort of people going about their daily lives, and said living in sort of peace and relative comfort in sort of all along the rivers of the homeland.
Lots of settlements carefully matched to the river, knowing what the river can provide, not weighing it down too much, but being able to provide there. Leandro, what is the epilogue for Soft?
Yeah, I think. Well, I did want to say I was going through I saw Soft's backstory, and I was struck with the fact that all those people mentioned there are kind of gone. So I think as soon as like the energy project kind of comes off relatively without a hitch, I think it's kind of like just disappears from public view, kind of like just there are stories of like, oh, there's that, because she's been the face of the dancing wave for so long. Like, you know, obviously there's stories of her wandering around, like going to the, you know, you see her around the archipelago, back at the Memorial Library in the City of Glass, just kind of like maybe, and you hear these stories of like, you know, this person who has seen so, there's these stories come about until finally, I think, at the, where would this be? It'd be on the river near the Eye Blinded. People will find like her just sitting next to the river, like just on a rock, just kind of like perched, just like looking out into the notice that like her suit has kind of like there isn't any like life functions in them. The suit is just still, and I think, you know, it's just like,
Nice.
I think that's the last we see.
Nice. What a nice vision. Axel, you have led your people to war twice. You have defeated the three times, if we count the Obsidian Archipelago, your strikes there. 3 times you have saved the homeland. What is the epilogue for Axel?
I think Axel goes and sits down next to Serenity and just spends, you know, I don't know how long, but a long time trying to learn. And I think there's on one hand, he feels that he didn't live up to Serenity's teachings because they still went to war with the damned. And I think just spend a long time trying to reconcile the presence and still having done still feeling like what they did was right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, just kind of becomes a figure there, spreading the teachings of the presence, I think.
And what about for Flood?
Yeah, so I think maybe we see the shot we see of Flood is them, it's her, like, I think actually maybe we see her in what we recognize as the dead Maya, and I think that she's there, and we probably don't even recognize it's her at first because of the you know, sort of hazmat suit that she's wearing. But I think she's there with a crew of people, and they are you know, pulling wreckage out of the water, you know, pumping the sort of the sludgy water of the blight through sort of, you know, devices set up next to it, and we can see that they're slowly starting to reclaim the dead Maya.
And that's our game. That is our story for the homeland here. Let's, if you want to, let's go around. Last thoughts, last comments. I will say I enjoyed that immensely. I loved the arcs of all your characters, of your families. Every time I threw something that was kind of horrible, you ran with it, and you were willing to take the blow. It felt for me much stronger in 8 sessions than it did in 5. I felt like we had lots of room, and was still plenty of interesting things to do with the projects. And I was first, I was like, oh, there are too many threats on the table, but we dealt with a lot of them. and I felt really, really good about that. Leandro, last comment, stars, thoughts, wishes, what not?
Yeah, I mean, I can't fathom doing this in 5 sessions. Like I don't know how how the previous attempts went through, but like yeah, eight felt really comfortable. Like I feel like we could have gone like way longer, but like it felt like it's a nice like tying of the bow, so to speak. I very much love everyone just running with a couple really bad rolls, a couple of like threats multiplying, like just and being able to run whatever Lo is able to throw, and also as well, being able to like just keep this all together, because I think the vast majority of this was kind of like came from us, like and so you had to like juggle through all that. And I know sometimes for GMs it's good that like, oh, everyone else is providing stuff, I just have to roll with it. Sometimes I get a bit anxious running with what people created, because like what if I'm doing it not the way they would have liked it. But I think you've done a very good job of like taking whatever concept ideas we've thrown at you and just making them like feel that much more alive, for sure. I think that's the main takeaway from this, because this is, and also Jesus Christ, running this game seems quite a bit, but that's all experience, I'd say.
Yeah, it was good stuff. You guys gave me good material to work with. It was just a matter of me trying to remember where everything was. I think that's the big challenge. I felt called out when Rye was like, "Oh, it's a disease that makes you your memory and you're not able to focus." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that feels like I do sometimes with this game." I'm like, wait, and the city class mystified. So, Rye, first time I got to play with you, I really, really had a good time playing with you. I really enjoyed it. So thoughts you had that you want to give last word?
Well, feelings mutual. That was just so fantastic. I think Legacy is now up there in my like top 5 games that I would someday like to try to GM, but not today. Because no way.
Absolutely.
Oh man, yeah. Just hat off to Lowell, just being able to take like small things that we put on the map and twist them, or being really creative with the way you brought them back to bear on us. That was fantastic. And then just David, I think the river folk ended up being what the seeds wanted to be. I don't know how I got stuck on this militaristic like fighting everybody thing.
It was that series of rolls with the Warren.
Oh man, that was brutal. It's just like, leave me alone. But yeah, hopefully now they can go out and just be peaceful scientists. But yeah, and then also just Leandro, I loved everything about the wave and soft, and how we had some conflict, and then that I thought added so much to the thing. But yeah, again, this game is crazy. I think I'm gonna have to play it like 3 or 4 more times before I feel like I even get it all. I just trying to keep up with all the moves and where everything's at while playing was tough. So
yeah, I will say I'm running Free from the Yoke. I'm going to do that next, and then after that I'm probably going to do another one of these, because it is a really interesting challenge to run these. It is tough, but boy, you generate so much good material. So
I'm playing Godsend next month. Is that?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the diceless one.
Yeah, it's the create a god and an avatar. So we'll see how that goes.
It looks very cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. David, thoughts, comments?
Just like, I mean, mostly echoing what everyone's already said, but no, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Definitely 8 episodes felt like a good start to the game. No, it definitely felt like enough time to actually get it up and running, and to like have enough of an arc, and to come to a nice conclusion. I think eight's a nice length for it. I mean, obviously, that's, as I've said before, it's like, yeah, you could. I can see this. This is definitely one of the few PbtA games I can see sort of just running until everyone decides they're done with it, sort of thing, rather than having that kind of hard point where you're like, okay, these characters are all finished now. I think with this, there's just so much scope to kind of keep, like, having sort of stuff spiral back and forwards. So but yeah, no, I thought that was a really nice run, and just like, yeah, everyone's like contributions were always really interesting and took the story in great directions. And I think, like I said, it is just, and I mean, it's funny because it's like, I find it really difficult to, like, normally, like, giving out stars at the end of these things, it's like, oh, I have too many things to say. In this, it's almost like the problem I almost have is it's like, because so much happens in any given like session, it's kind of almost difficult to think, oh yeah, that was a cool thing that happened this time, because there's just so much different stuff going on, which I think is great. I really I mean, I quite like playing with sort of like a slightly more abstracted level sometimes, and I think this does that really well, whilst also letting you have those really nice sort of moments between characters as well. So I think it's that's really cool. So yeah, that's almost Lisa's stuff. I mean, Leah said, obviously, I think this was the first time I played with you, Ryan. That was great. So thank you for that. And it's always great to play with you, Lowell and Leandro. So that was brilliant. And yeah, thank you for everything that everyone brought to this. And yeah, I'm running that game of Godsend starting next week, actually, which I should get on sorting that out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that sort of is going to be a little bit different, I think, to this. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes.
I have one more thing I want to call out as a star before I let you go. One of the things I appreciated is over 8 sessions, I felt like each of you had a good, consistent vision of your family, like what your family was about, what they wanted to be. Even when we made those little changes, with the turning of the age, they felt like logical changes. That pivot that came for the seeds, it felt like it was responsive to the circumstances, and it made sense. And I felt that. And Leandro, I'm always amazed at your ability to come up with the wildest cosmological, conceptual things and make it internally consistent. To keep that going, and each time you said something that sounded wild, I was like, yeah, that makes sense given what Leandro has already established. So really good stuff. Thank all of you. I'm going to stop the broadcast.